they'd have these great profits and they'd look at their bank account and they'd go, where's it gone?
My guest today is Morgan Wilson, founder of Credit, where he helps business owners make clear decisions, tighten the numbers, and build better businesses. Morgan, great to have you here. You mentioned that you enjoy the practical side of advisory, not the theory. When did that shift from traditional accounting work to real advisory become obvious for you?
They kind of go hand in hand. And it's a piece there that on that front, Bianca, it's sort of the way in which our business works is that, obviously there's that some of that reactive work. It's backward looking and it's telling you what's happening, but also part of it is that proactive work and sort of anticipating what's going to happen in a business. And it's one of those things about just giving business owners the confidence about what comes next from a numbers perspective, because all of it comes down to numbers at the end of the day. Every activity gets recorded as a number. And so it was just a way of sort of embedding ourselves in a client's team rather than being that once a year compliance based tax stop. We wanted to have that regular touch point with our clients so they could make really better decisions, take faster actions and stress less, because we didn't want our clients, sitting there going, those sort of 3 a.m. wake up calls. So they go, oh, what's happened with this? Or where's that at? Or what numbers are there? Or anything else like that. We wanted to give them peace of mind and sort of be that genuine business partner for them. And it's been a really great take up from our clients. I think there's been a real need for that, especially as we work with ambitious business owners. They have that ambition to grow. So we're there as a bit of a growth partner to facilitate that for them.
So was there a specific client moment that made it click? Or
There's a few there that like an example, we do a fair bit within trucking, transport and third party logistics. They're great at what they do, but the numbers piece to that, and it's the same for every business owner really, but that was the realization for us, is we were trying to help them map out as to how they expand, because they were growing quite aggressively, but they never had any cash in the bank. They'd have these great profits and they'd look at their bank account and they'd go, where's it gone? Which is a classic question for all business owners. Sometimes it happens to me when I look at our monthly numbers and I go, where's the cash gone?
I was going to say that. It happens to me as well.
And it happens to all of us as business owners. Like, you can have some great months, but still not have the cash there to show for it because you've invested it back into the business, whether that's staff, and especially for this trucking and transport client, for them, when they're buying $500,000 Kenworth trucks, that's a big investment. Even when you're financing them over 5 years and everything, they're big investments that you make into this. And especially as that client was growing quite quickly, we had to really maneuver and where they went from there. So they went from 6 to 16 trucks in the best part of about 10 months. So it was something there that, it grew quite quickly. And for us, that was just really highlighted the need to jump in and assist them. Because it's one thing to do the bookkeeping. It's one thing to be there for a bit of accounting advice from time to time. And it's one thing to do the yearly tax returns and tax planning and everything else. But it was another piece to actually touch base with them, sort of almost on a weekly and sometimes at a daily basis, to talk around where they're going, what they're doing, how they're sort of, where things fall and everything else. So that planning piece for us really highlighted it. And for us, again, it came to a sort of, what we do is we productized our advisory offerings, which was really allowed us to, if you go to see a doctor, they're going to be able to give you a prescription. Bianca, you come to us, you say, Morgan, I don't know where my cash has gone. And we go, cool, Bianca, well, how about we help you with our cash flow management service? Or there's a bit of cash flow coaching that we can do. We can set up the systems and processes for you there. Or if you want us to do it, we can set up some reporting structures. We can give you a cash flow report every week as to how you do it. So having those, you come to us with a problem and we've got a prescription for you to be able to fix it. So we've got 14 dedicated sort of business advisory products that as clients come to us, we go, cool, this is how we can help. So it really helped us, prescribe solutions for our clients.
That's great. Amazing work. So why do you think firms avoid this advisory?
I
Because
think
it's overcomplicated.
there's a piece to it that there's a compliance, you know what you're doing, and look, compliance is getting more and more complex. So you do need technicians. We've got technicians in our team that are phenomenal from that tax point. It's, the tax legislation never gets any less complicated, especially here in Australia. It only ever seems to get more and more complicated as to how things work. So you do very much need those technicians for compliance based pieces. So, and some like that's where a lot of skill sets are. There's still, there's been a lot there in the last, well, 15 years since I became an accountant, where there was that, AI advisory, that's the way to go. But compliance hasn't died from that piece. I think it's just around the businesses looking at their accountants with a different mindset. Some accountants do offer those advisory services. Some accountants offer advisory services like we do, and sort of like a bit of a packaged prescription based, like productized service. And some accountants don't want to do that either. And all of that's okay, because there's more than enough there for everyone. So,
Exactly.
and just especially with how complex our compliance becomes in
Yeah, so
Australia,
the thing is the barrier, the data or the confidence behind it?
I think it's probably a bit of confidence behind it and systems and processes, because it's a very different skill set for what it is. It's, again, from a great technician to where you know the answer, where sometimes I have to admit I ask a lot of dumb questions to our clients around how their business works, what drives their business, to really get to know them and what makes their
It's
business tick.
amazing, yeah, this
Yeah.
idea.
So you kind of have to get out of your comfort zone as an accountant in that compliance space, because you spend, you go to uni, you become a chartered accountant or a certified, accountant and everything else. So you've got years worth of study there to where you kind of feel like you have to know the answer. Where sometimes we just ask the question to go, Bianca, how does your business work?
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And you need to get deeper into the business. So, being the advisory. And sometimes not even with only the owner, right? You need to just with the people that are working to really know the work and what they're doing.
Oh,
So you
absolutely.
yeah, you often say firms stay reactive because their numbers aren't clean and the systems aren't tight. So in your view, what's the real root cause behind that?
There's a there's a level of comfort to it as well, but also there's a piece to it that, yeah, you need a certain infrastructure. The reason why we're able to do what we do is we do offer that full finance function for SMEs. So we can do the books, we can do the payroll, we can do the accounting, tax compliance, and we can do the CFO and advisory. Whereas if you sort of take that, the landscape the way it is now, a small business owner will typically go to a bookkeeper for bookkeeping, or even worse, they're looking after their own numbers, they're reconciling their own files, they're doing their own, like they become their own bookkeeper, which is not the reason why you start your own business in the first place, to become your own bookkeeper. But they will go to one person for that solution, or they keep it themselves. They'll go to an accountant once a year to get their tax done. And then maybe sometimes if there's a serious problem, they might go ahead and see a business coach or someone, they might tap their accountant on the shoulder and go, hey, I don't know where I'm going with this. But like the numbers aren't connecting to the cash I've got in the bank, or I've got a problem. And so when you've got sort of 3 or 4 different people looking at the one thing, you can kind of get a bit confused as to whose responsibility it might be. Whereas for our clients, they come to us. They come to credit, and they know that for the most part, it's covered. Anything with a dollar sign, they can come to us and ask questions around that. So it's just around having the infrastructure in place more than anything else. And it's a different
Yeah, I
way of,
think the infrastructure is really, really important. The tech stack you have behind the firm as well.
yeah, it's
And where
really
do you
important.
see and where do you see the biggest breakdown, like workflows, capacity, or the tech stack?
I think tech stack, is pretty much spot on. Just about any product. I mean, look, nothing's quite defeated the trusty Excel spreadsheet, and we've had that tool for so long it's not funny. it's but there's still some great tools out there, and especially as you see Zero with the acquisition of Sift and what they're pulling through there and everything, it can just give you some really great insights at the click of a button. You still need a human there to drive that, because as much as there's great insight, you need someone to action whatever insights there might be. You need someone to drive that process, or whatever there might be. Um, so tech stack's kind of handled. I think it's more around the process of it, how you handle that tech stack, how you handle a conversation with a client, that process piece to it. And it's, again, that advisory piece is, you've got to get really curious about clients and about systems and processes of business and just overall. like, you can't be afraid to not know the answer, and you can't be afraid to go, Bianca, I don't know that, but let's park that for now. Let's find out what that might be. And you can't be afraid to tap other people on the shoulder that might be a specialist. Whether it's a AI question, maybe an IT piece, insurance piece, a finance piece. So you've got to be able to connect to the right people in the right spaces for those types of things. So it's it would mostly be just a confidence and an attitude piece. I would say, Bianca, that kind of is that big hurdle to jump over.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned about Excel, like, I'll be honest, I always was a Excel lover. I use for everything. Like, it's my and it hurt a little bit that I don't use as much anymore. But I mean, you need to grow. But I really love Excel. But yeah,
Oh,
you need to
it's just
evolve.
in terms of how malleable it can be and how you can manipulate data and everything else. I don't think anything can defeat it. From like it's
And
just the simplicity of it. So there's some really great reports you can mock up in like, and especially with the way you could use a chat GPT or something like that to give you formulas to put into Excel, and or Copilot's already embedded in Excel and how you go
yeah,
about
we
doing
can
that.
still use it. It's not
Yeah,
as much, but we can
yeah,
still use that in the automation. Yeah, that's
yeah.
fantastic.
So no, big fan. I think you and I, yeah, we share that same love for Excel.
So, do owners underestimate the cost of inefficiency, like all around the tech stack, if you don't have like a properly set?
Same thing from that perspective is like even for ourselves in our own business, you don't know what you don't know. Like we didn't really understand the power of our tech stack until we really started asking some deep questions around where are we taking our business? What gaps do we have? Because especially within the accounting world as well, there's a million and one apps. And I'm sure that's the same for a lot of different, like, especially for our clients in trades-based businesses, there's a million and one apps for that. There's a lot of noise in that space. Real estate agencies as well, a lot of tech and a lot of noise in that space. Trucking and transport, like just about any industry has a lot of noise of apps that might solve a specific problem.
Exactly. There's so many noise, but you need to focus on your solution, right? What's your problem and what is your solution in specific apps? You can test it out, you can do different apps, but I think it's important to understand what is your stage at that moment, and then
It's
you
not
grow
about
from there.
Yeah, and not about adding more and more subscriptions to solve one problem. Like it's amazing, and especially when we looked at it within our own business, how many pieces of tech that we had that we kind of went, well, that somewhat overlaps with what we've got here, and this somewhat overlaps with what we've got here, just to kind of start to streamline a few things. Because I think there's a big thing, and I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, Bianca, around there's sort of that subscription and tech fatigue. There's only so many you can have before you go like, and one thing that we have some really quick wins with clients as we onboard them is we review their subscription expenses, because you can ask a business owner about, hey, what's this subscription? They go, I don't know what that is. And what's this one?
Wow, you pay
Yeah,
all that, you don't
yeah.
even know, you're not
I
even
am.
using it,
And
like,
it's pretty typical, like just having that subscription audit at least once every 6 months within a business, because there can be a lot of waste in that space. And just sort of how you have an efficient tech stack and what you look at there. And, you know, sometimes just doing something within like your core tech, I think is more, even if it's a little bit clunky, can sometimes be better than adding three more apps to feed into that tech stack.
exactly,
So, but
exactly.
yeah,
You need to be smart about it. Yeah.
so you don't know
So
what you don't know on that front, Bianca. So it's about getting in touch with experts like yourself or things like that to go, where are we at? We need a review, or if it's taking that much human effort to do something,
exactly.
let's explore automating it. Yeah,
Yeah. And I think it's the work behind it as well, because you can have like a few apps and a few systems, but they don't connect to each other.
yeah,
So if you get someone that knows what they're doing, then they connect the systems, because the 90% of the manual work effort is behind this, is the to connect the systems. And when you work that out, it's amazing what can do.
yeah.
It's
So
amazing.
and again, for us, a key piece within our business, just to use it as an example, is we got someone on board within our team that they use Zapier, like they were just in terms of how we connect things from HubSpot to our own sort of internal accounting CRM and things like, just some of that where that data was getting plugged in by someone manually just happens. You don't even think about it anymore. It just goes. So having those types of people in your corner for your business can really help. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. You're a step way ahead of a lot of firms. I love that. So what's the biggest mismatch you see between what the owners want and what they actually need to grow?
And this is what we do with a lot of clients. We just finished a session yesterday with a client. We have an offering around business planning. And that is all around getting out of your head, Bianca, where you want to go and what you want to do, and then how that ties to your numbers. Because again, if you can't connect what your strategy is to your numbers, well, there's a big disconnect. And all of a sudden, if you're going a degree out, you're going to end up somewhere very, very different over the course of 3, 5, and 10 years' time. If that little degree is just a little bit off in terms of your strategy and where that connects to your numbers. So we really try to get that out of our clients' heads because there's a lot that runs, as you know, in a business owner's head. They, there's a lot that they just carry within them and they don't potentially talk to people about it. They've kind of got an idea of where they want to go and what they want to do, but they've never put it into concrete. They've never gone, all right, this is what I'm doing. This is where I'm going. Here's what I'm going to try and achieve. Sometimes it's too far out. Sometimes, in 10 years' time, I'm going to have a $2 million business. And you go, well, take a couple of steps back. What's going to happen in 5 years to achieve that? What's going to happen in 3 years to achieve that? What needs to happen in 1 year and 90 days? What needs to happen in 30 days to achieve that? So
Fantastic.
getting
Yeah.
some of that, that sometimes disconnect between the numbers and the strategy or the overall goal, what we see a lot of. And that's what we try to get out of our clients' heads and go, even just as a rough idea, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What's your vision? What's your purpose? And everything there. And then we go, well, if your business is here and you want to be over here, well, let's break it down
Right.
into little micro steps. Like, what's the plan? Like, do we need to get someone like a Bianca in our corner? Do we need a Johnny, Sally, whoever to hire and do that? Like, what aspects of the business is the business owner looking after?
Yeah.
Right? What can we do to free their time up and things there? So it becomes very much more, we become very embedded with our clients because we've invested in their growth. We want to see them do well. Look, again, selfishly speaking, if our client does well, we're doing well as well.
Exactly. It's
So,
win-win, right?
yeah, exactly. So we want to see them
You
do
grow, I grow. That's it.
exactly. And I think that's got to be the foundation of any business relationship is if you grow, I grow. And that's how we all win together.
Yeah. So do you think I see a lot of business owners stuck? Do you think the challenge is too much information or unclear information?
I think there can be a lot of noise around as a business owner, and especially like now more so than ever, there's a lot of noise. And there's a lot of reports that you can get. There's probably not enough insight that you can really get from those reports. I think there's a bit of guessing that when you take all that information, you go, well, I guess that's the right thing to do without really deciding that's the right thing to do. And look, again, I'm guilty of this all the time. Like if you're following other businesses on, you might follow a few coaches or you might follow a few other things and you go, oh, that sounds like a good idea. I might implement that. But then you kind of have to go back to your business plan or where you want to go and what you want to do. And you go, it sounds like a good idea, but that doesn't actually really fit into where I want to take my business and where I'm going with our team and how do I have them succeed and everything else. So I think that's the biggest challenge of all is like trying to cut the noise. And again, just to kind of refer back yesterday to a business planning session we ran with a client, is we boiled their business down to 4 KPIs. That's all the business owner needed to focus on. And
Clarity.
then that was it. But we knew that if they had those 4 KPIs sorted, the business was doing well. It had nothing really to do with net profit or EBIT or anything like that, like some of that sort of very traditional accountantese type numbers. We knew that if they performed those 4 numbers and they did them well, they had a good handle on their business. That's all they needed to like. Sure,
That's
they could go
beautiful.
ahead and find other numbers and things like that, but 4 numbers, you can manage those. You can measure those quite easily. Funnily enough, they're already measuring 3 of those 4 numbers. They just weren't paying attention to them.
Exactly. Clarity is all, right? So especially talking about clarity, What does that actually mean in practice? What are the signs that tell you that a business finally has the visibility to make good decisions?
Really great question. And it goes back to that clarity is simply knowing what numbers drive your business. Yes, profit is nice. We all want to see a profit at the end of the day, but that's a result of activities. What activities have you done up top for the profit to fall out the bottom? Knowing what drives that, especially, some of those very traditional, are you measuring your leads? Do you know how many leads you have to appointments, to proposals, to sales? That very traditional lapse process that people talk about. If you're not measuring that, you don't know what's coming in up top. If you don't know what that costs you to then deliver that service, you don't know what falls out the bottom at the end of the day. So some of that very, simple systems and processes you can put in place to give you that clarity over your business, it just really helps. It boils your business down to very simple things. 'Cause most businesses, well, I haven't seen a business that you can't boil down to 3 or 4 numbers that really drives what they're trying to do. Um, and then you can connect that back to the strategy and what they're doing, and that's what clarity is. It's about simplifying, knowing what those numbers mean, knowing what to do about those numbers and what influences those numbers. It's not about a 1,000-page report, and it's not about 1,000 different reports that are 1 page each. It's just around enough insight on those 4, 5 numbers max. Boom, done. What drives those? Clarity. That's all you need.
Amazing. So do you think dashboards help or in the context more important?
And I think that dashboard, like if you boil down the simplicity of 5 numbers, if you could put those 5 numbers on a dashboard, and that comes the challenge of where you pull all the different pieces of data to get those numbers. But again, you get that, and that gives you such a great figure on the pulse for your business. And whether you measure that weekly, depending on how much activity you have, or whether you do that monthly, depending on how easy it is to grab all those numbers and everything else, it gives you enough to influence those numbers on a monthly or weekly basis, or at least monthly is a really good decision making tool. Weekly is a good finger on the pulse tool. Quarterly gives you better insight because traditionally, like for a lot of businesses, any quarterly cycle will have a great month, an okay month, and a poor or sort of sideways month. And it sort of averages itself out over quarterly performance. But I think definitely tracking those key numbers, putting that on a dashboard, because that then allows you to ask the question why. If you can't track those numbers, you don't know why. You'll never know because you don't know what you don't know. But if we know what we don't know, we go, okay, cool. Well, our leads are down. We don't know why they're down. So that allows you to ask why, because you now know what you don't know.
Exactly.
So you
So
can
do you
follow that.
see like behavior shifts when once the owners see the truth, have the clarity?
There's an empowerment piece to it because as a business owner, you wear 10 different hats at once. So there's an empowerment to it that there's a simplicity of going, I know that I need to look after those 4 numbers at the end of the day. I know I need to look after my team. I know I need to look after my clients. I know that I need to look after my customers and suppliers and everything else. But I know that if I'm driving those 4 numbers, most of that kind of falls with it. If those 4 numbers, 5 numbers are driving, most of it pushes along with it. So I think that's a real key piece for that, predictability and management of your business where you know what's coming in.
Fantastic. So let's talk about systems, what I love. So when systems get tighter, like advisor just become easier, right? So what are the first couple of system or workflows every firm should tighten before they even consider scaling?
It You need to, and was a big thing for us in our business because we grew quite quickly. Your systems and processes, just having the credit way of doing things, and just having a process mapped out. Because if you're having Bianca doing it a different way to Morgan, that's doing it a different way to Sally and Jenny and John, you've got all of a sudden 5 different people doing 5 different things. The standardizing some of those operating procedures and having that documented. Because the moment you start having those variations in data, again, it comes back to that. If you're a degree off, but all of a sudden we've got 5 people a degree off, well, they went like we're almost going in totally different directions over the course of 12 months. Getting those standard operating procedures around how you use your systems And whether that's even as simple as replying to an email or how you answer the phone or how you onboard a new client and how you do, like, how you use your systems, that's a real key piece because then everyone is doing it the one way. So you've got that standard input because a big challenge, especially that we see in the accounting space, is if you've got, I won't swear, but if you've got poor input, you're going to get poor output because the input's poor. So naturally, the output's going to be poor. So it's some,
100%.
so that sort of standardized way of doing things, this goes here and this is why. So having
So
that in place,
yeah, which workflow gives the biggest impact first, you think? The fastest impact?
in terms
Client
of,
onboarding or.
yeah, I think anything client facing, like especially onboarding, I think sort of having that great touch point for clients, making them feel good, thinking customers and going, cool, like, because that inevitably, I forget what the stat is around it, but if you can impress a customer in 100 days, the likelihood of them leaving, like, I think is almost 3% or something. Like over the course of your relationship with them, it's like a 3% chance. I might have butchered that stat, but it's definitely very low if you can wow them in the first 100 days. Um,
Exactly, it's your
but
first, contact, so it
first
needs to
interaction, yeah, it's your first
be the
interaction
best.
together and everything else. Fine onboarding, but I also think service delivery as well. Like when you think about that, um, I know that also where some clients have had a lot of success is just with their own administration because that then allows them to step up and have a look at what else is going on in their business. Is it service delivery? Is it operation, sales, marketing, whatever? If they could graduate themselves out of the administration of it and they kind of go up the ladder as they go through, I think you can't go wrong with any of those three. So whether it's, client onboarding and that sales piece, I think you can't go wrong if there's service delivery, if you can work smarter around that because you're then being more efficient, but also your own admin. There is that saying that if you don't have a PA, you are your PA. So sort of how you make yourself efficient out of that and everything else, graduate yourself out of those systems and processes, I think is a real big win for any business owner.
And where do you see the most wasted manual effort?
I think it is that administration piece. It is
And
very,
following up,
yeah,
with clients, getting documentations and all that.
following up, the potentially gaps in information, chasing things, a lot of that stuff that, uh, look, admittedly, we do. There are a lot of reminders our clients get, and to the point of I can appreciate the frustration, but if we're not chasing them, the work doesn't get done. And so there's a piece there around, how you automate that. And we've automated a lot of our follow ups. The clients will receive a lot of reminders. Clients will receive reminders and they know, I know I have to do it. That's a good reminder. I'm going to park it for now and I'll get back to it. So it's a good reminder for clients. But if you can imagine, like, that could easily be someone's full-time job, chasing information, collating things, putting things together and workflow, some of that stuff that you just go, you don't like, that's a waste of someone's time at the end of the day. So any of that administrative piece, especially like organizing meetings and things like that as well, like, you can just give someone a link these days and they can book it in rather than the back and forth of, Bianca, when are you free? Oh, well, I'm not free that day. Could you do another day? And you go, I'm not free
It's
that day.
amazing, isn't it?
So some of those simple things that they might only seem like they take 5 minutes at that point in time. But if you go, I do that 10 times a day,
Yeah,
well, you spent
it's a
almost an
lot.
hour doing that every day, and that's 7 hours. And all of a sudden, you've spent a whole day trying to organize meetings and emails and everything else.
Sure, for sure. So which admin task would you remove first? Like, if you could remove from your process, your workflow, which one would you remove it?
In an ideal world, just with how many emails and pieces of correspondence and things, I think that would be something that if you could have, like for any business owner, just in terms of, the old classic Dan Martell, Buying Back Your Time, and that book is just if you can have someone and sort of teach them the way of how you want to be able to respond to that, how that should get organized and requests for information and things. The way in which our business works is we have a bit of a triage of inboxes, so you can, allocate things to different people as to how they come through. But that just from a business owner and a founder's perspective, that just frees you up to work on higher value tasks, whether that's service delivery, whether that's working on your business rather than in your business. I think that's the biggest one that I think any business owner or founder can get not get rid of, but oversee someone else looking after.
Yeah, I think firms underestimate how much time disappears in follow-ups and in these manual things, like small things that they don't realize how much it takes.
It is amazing about like, and the big eye opener for me. So for the last almost 12 months, and I'll give Rescue Time a bit of a plug because it was a real eye opener for me, was that it tracks what browser I'm in, what Excel spreadsheet I'm in, what I've been doing for the last 12 months. And a real eye opening week for me is I spent about 14 hours and I can't remember how many minutes in emails. 14 hours. So almost 2 full working days I spent in emails. And it was really eye opening as to go, we need to change this process because that's not an efficient use of my time. Clients aren't investing in us for me to respond to every little email that comes our way and sort of, so it was real eye opening for us as to how we delegate, how we automate, how we respond, and everything there because 14 hours in emails, I don't think is a really good use of anyone's time.
Yeah, true. So, what's the one thing you wish more firm owners understood about shift from being stuck in the weeds to becoming like true advisors?
I think from that piece, I think businesses aren't built on complexity. Like, no matter how complex the solution you might deliver might be, businesses are built on clarity. They're built on sort of just clean and consistent rhythms. And it's around, yeah, being very purposeful in your growth. It's not growth for growth's sake. I think that sort of clear, confident pace is what everyone should be able to take away from. It's not about growth for growth's sake. It's not about complexity. It's about, is that clear?
Clear the path. I think owners overcomplicate the path, and I always say that clarity is the gateway to trust. Just trust the path. I think
It's
that's
that.
the. Thanks so much, Morgan. So before we wrap up the recording, for anyone listening who wants to follow your work or learn more about what you're doing with credit, what's the best place to reach you?
Best place is either LinkedIn, so which is just linkedin.com/Morgan Wilson. Very simple there. Otherwise, feel free to reach out on our website. So credit, creditte.com.au and book a phone call through there. Very simple. You can click through the link, find a time that suits you and get in touch.
Awesome, perfect. Thank you again, Morgan. That was incredibly valuable.
Thanks, Bianca. Thanks for having me.